ICANN page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, Model Aeroplanes and Their Motors, page 9, Wade Carl's Model in Flight courtesy Edward P. Warner, Concord Model Club, Model Aeroplanes and Their Motors, a practical book for beginners by George A. Kavanagh, model editor. Aerial Age, drawings by Harry G. Schultz, President Th. Barrow Science Club of America with an introduction by Henry Woodhouse, managing Edeltoy, Flying. Governor of Aero Club H of America, New York, Moffat. Yard and Company, 1916. Copyright, 1916, B.V. Moffat. Yard and Company, New York, all HFHU R. Turvid. To MTH. Page 14. Introduction. History tells us what some office luckier ones heard the Wright brothers themselves tell, that the Wrights' active work in aeronautics was sold off the interest, aroused by Atoy helicopter presented to them by Rev. Ren Bishop Milton Wright, their father. Tremendous developments have taken place in aeronautics and aircraft are fast developing in size, speed, and range of action. They have revolutionized warfare, and seem destined to become a most important factor in their construction that will follow through. The greater the development through the fact that model aeroplanes may be instrumental in bringing to aeronautics men who may make valuable contributions to aeronautics. A samatter off fact, their aerial ready and active life, contributing their share to the development of aeronautics, young men who only a years aga competed for prizes. Introduction which the writer offered for model competition. The young men wore no flying models will live in Thenway gent they have much, togavin much torsive from it through the tremendous strides forward of aeronautics, their wonderful possibilities for the employment of ingenuity, genius and skill, and business opportunities, as great as have ever been created by progressing important lines of human endeavor. Problems of engineering assuges were solved by master builders. Juridical and legal questions decided as stupendously difficult as Sanny Gladstone would wish them. Possibilities for the development of international relations greater than were ever conceived. Problems of transportation solved by the application of aircraft, as wonderful as any economist could wish. Opportunities to gain distinction splendid necessities for the most ambitious person. Henry Woodhouse. New York, June 5, 1916. The stiff contents page introduction. Asterisk Roman 9 History of Model Aviation I Construction. 8 propellers, wings, frame assembling, launching, chassis, pontoons, launching an R.O.G. or model hydro-aeroplane. World record models 52 lauder distance and duration model Hiddle tractor hydro Latour flying boat Cook No. 42 model Olsone H. Wheeler twin pusher biplane Ruddy Funk duration model. Compressed air motor 83, a simple compressed air motor wise compressed air motor Scober Funk 3-cylinder motor, the Scober 4-cylinder opposed motor, compressed air-driven models. 92 the McMahon compressed air-driven monoplane, the McMahon compressed air-driven biplane. Gasoline motors Jobson Midgetaro gasoline motor 112 steam power plants 114 H. Grove steam power plants G. Harris's steam engine Professor Langley's steam engine French experiments with steam power plants. World's model flying records 119 Dictionary of Aeronautical Terms 122. Page 18. Stiff illustrations page model aeroplane in flight frontispiece first model aeroplane exhibition. Op. 4 propellers diagram I. 9 How Talkit propellers diagram 2 U designs 4 propellers diagram 3. 14 designs 4 propellers diagram 4. 17 wing construction diagram 5. 20 members of the Aero Science Club op. 22 members of Milwaukee and Illinois Model Aero Clubs op. 22 frame construction diagram 6. 25 model assembly diagram 7. 30 CW. Mayer and WM. Hodgins exhibiting early type models op. 32 Henry Criscooley with 5-foot model op. 32 Schultz hydro-aeroplane op. 32 rubber winder diagram 8. 35 chassis construction diagram 9. 38 pontoon construction diagram 10. 43 Ubst flying boat op. 44 McLaughlin twin tractor hydro-aeroplane op. 44 Louis Bamberger hydro about to lave water op. 44 EB hiring and Kenneth Sedgwick Milwaukee Club. How to launch ROG model op. 48 Wade Carl Concord Model Club launching ROG model op. 48 List of illustrations page Wallace A. Lauder model diagram N. 54 Lauder distance and duration model op. 56 Lauder R0 G model op. 56 Lindsay Hiddle world record hydro-aeroplane diagram 12. 61 Latour flying boat diagram 13. 66 Ellis Cook RO G model diagram 14. 73 Funk duration model diagram 15. 78 Ruddy Funk speed model op. 80 McMahon and Scober compressed air-driven models op. 80 Olsone H Wheeler twin pusher biplane op. 82 CV Ops tractor op. 82 simple compressed air motor diagram 16. 85 Scober compressed air-driven monoplane op. 88 Scober compressed air-driven biplane op. 88 John McMahon and compressed air-driven monoplane op. 94 Frank Scober preparing model for flight op. 94 John McMahon pusher biplane diagram 17. 98 Ys compressed air motor op. 100 Scober Funk 5-cylinder rotary motor op. 100 Scober 4-cylinder engine diagram 18. 103 Jobson gasoline motor op. 104 sectional view of Jobson motor diagram 19. 108 power curve of Jobson motor diagram 20. In midget gasoline motor op. 112 English steam power plant op. 116 V.E. Johnson steam-driven hydro-aeroplane op. 116 English compressed air-driven biplane op. 118 tractor hydro-aeroplane fitted with steam power plant op. 118 English compressed air motor fitted with simple speedometer op. 118 Model aeroplanes history. Off-model aviation model aeroplaning, a sassport, was first introduced in America during the year of 1907. It was then that the first model aeroplane club in America was formed by Miss E.L. Todd, with the assistance of Mr. Edward Durant, now director of the Aero Science Club of America. Prior to this, the model aeroplane was considered an instrument of experimentation, or, when built to resemble a full-sized machine, was used for exhibition purposes. Noted scientists, men such as Maxim, Langley, Eiffel, and others, depended largely on models to bring about the desired results during their experiments. Before the Wright brothers brought forth and launched the first heavier than air machine, their experiments, to great model aeroplanes extent, were confined to model aeroplanes. There is little doubt but the large majority of aviators engaged in flying machines in different parts of the world were at any time in their career interested in the construction and flying of model aircraft, and from which no doubt they obtained their initial knowledge of the aeroplane, insofar as the same principles and la Saplatoni aeroplane, regardless of its size. First model aeroplane club went under the name of New York Model Aero Club, and during its existence agrippany of its contests were carried on in armories. The reason for this was because of the fact that greater number of the models prevalent at that time were built along the lines of full-size machines, and their manner of construction was such as to interfere with the flying efficiency of the model. Streamlined construction was something unknown to model constructors in those days. In consequence, crudely constructed and heavy models were very often heavy, 3 dense, and a sersalt, flights of over 100 feet were ever seldom made. At about the same time, model enthusiasts in both England and France were actively engaged in constructing and flying models, but the type of model used was of a different design from those flown by the American modelists, and as a result of this innovation, many of the early records were held abroad. The type of model flown by the English modelists resembled in appearance the letter, and the term, 8 type. It was not long after the introduction of this type of model in America that model aeroplaning as a sport began to assume an aspect of great interest. Models were constructed along simpler lines and with a greater tendency toward doing away with unnecessary parts, the use increasing the flying qualities of the models. Flights off greater distance and duration were the objects sought, and in their efforts to achieve them new records were made at most every contest, until flights off from 500 to 1,000 for model aeroplanes feet were a common occurrences. By use of the A-type model and the single-stick model, which made its appearance shortly after the type model, American modelists succeeded in breaking most of the world records for this type of model, which is now termed by English modelists flying sticks. One beyond model airplane clubs were formed in different parts of the country until today there are in existence about 25 clubs, and all with memberships, often 208 times that of the first model aero club. The work, which was started by the New York Model Aero Club, is now being carried on by the Aero Science Club of America and its affiliated clubs. Interest in model flying grew to such extent that during the year of 1915, the Aero Club of America decided to hold the first national model aeroplane competition for the purpose of offering to the young aimer icon opportunity of becoming acquainted with this new sport and its advantages. The results of this competition were beyond expect. Page 25, page 26, History 5 Tation. Models were made capable of fleeing distances and with durations that, to the early flyers, seemed impossible. In the hand launch contests, models were flown 40 distances ranging from 2,000 to 2,500 feet, Thuan Ning flight being 3,537 feet, and it might also be said that the contestant who flew this model, with a model of the same design, established a duration record of 195 seconds. As this goes to press, information is received that the world's record for distance forehand launched models has been broken by Thomas Hall of Chicago, 111. An Illinois Model Aero Club member, with a flight of 5,337 feet. Another interesting result of the competition was the establishing of a world hydro-aeroplane record by a member of the Illinois Model Aero Club with a model of the tractor type, a four-bladed propeller being used in connection with the model. The flying boat, which is a late advent to the field of model flying, also proved a record breaker in this competition. having remained in theorafterizing from the surface off. 6 model aeroplanes water, for a duration of 43 seconds. This model was flown by a member of the Pacific Northwest Model Aero Club of Seattle, Washington. The establishing of these records clearly indicates the advantage of scientific designing and construction and careful handling. How satisfactory have been their results of the first national model aeroplane competition that the Aero Club of America has made our arrangements for holding the second national model aeroplane competition during the year 1916. But in the announcement of second national competition, the Aero Club of America has made provision for the holding of contests for mechanically driven models. View of the interest which is being shown by model flyer synth the construction of model, more closely resembling large machines towed driven by compressed air, steam and gasoline power plants. This is the outcome of a desire on the part of model constructors to substitute for what is now commonly known as flying stick. Models more closely resembling large Street 7 machines, which models can be more satisfactorily flown by use of compressed air, steam or gasoline power plants. As in the early days, the best flights made by models using compressed air and steam have been made by English flyers. The duration of the flights ranging anywhere from 25 to 50 seconds. Whether or not American flyers will repeat history and achieve greater results with this type of model motive power is something that cannot be determined in the future. But in any event, the scientific mechanically driven model will, without doubt, assume an important position in the field of model aviation. Construction propellers may be cut from various kinds of wood, but the most suitable, from every standpoint, is white pine. The advantage of using this wood lies in the fact that the propellers may beckett more rapidly and when cured are lighter than those made from most other kinds of wood. When coated with the proper kind of varnish, the air is sufficiently strong for ordinary flying. Wood selected for propellers should be free from knots, holes and other imperfections, and it is very desirable that it should be of perfectly straight grain. A piece of such clear white pine 8, long, wide and 4 thick should be selected and in one side marked TOP. At racing of the propeller similar in design to figure I should be laid on this piece of wood and an imprint of the propeller design drawn on the TOP side. 2a. Construction diagram I and model aeroplanes find the center of the block to line should be drawn from the opposite corners, their point of meeting being approximately in the center near enough for all practical purposes to ensure greater accuracy. Similar lines should be drawn from the corners on the bottom city of the block of wood. A hole 3-32 of an inch in diameter should be bored through the center thus obtained, through which the propeller shaft will be inserted when the propeller is finished. At woe sections of the propeller blades drawn in diagrammatical form on TOP of the block should be marked respectively blade E and blade 2, as shown in diagram I. The block is then ready for the commencement of the actual cutting. In cutting out the propeller, blade I should be held in the left hand and the knife in the other, with the blade off the knife on the straight edge of blade I. The cutting should be carried out very carefully with attention constantly paid to Fig. 2. And should be stopped when the line shown in Fig. 2 has been reached. The semi-construction Roman 2 diagram 2. 12 model aeroplanes blade should then be sandpapered until a small curve is obtained by which the propeller will be enabled to grip the air. To cut blade 2, blade I should be held in the left hand and blade 2 cut until the line shown in Fig. 3 is reached, after which the sandpapering process is carried out in the same manner as in the case of blade I. During all of the foregoing operations it must be clearly borne in mind that to puff the blank propeller must always face upward, and the cutting should always be done on straight lines. Should the straight edge be cut on each of the blank propeller and the curved edge on the other, it would result in the blades off finished propeller having 8 indensity push in opposite directions, and in consequence no propulsion off the model would be possible. Attention should next be turned to the back of the propeller blank on which the manner of cutting is exactly like that suggested for the top side, with the exception that instead of cutting along the straight lines, the cutting is done. Instruction 13, along the curved lines. In this part of work great care is to be exercised, for by the time the necessary cutting has been done on back of the propeller the entire structure is very fragile and an excessive stroke off the knife may result in destroying the entire propeller blade. By constantly holding fluid to the lighted disposable to determine with areas an able degree of accuracy evenness of thickness. To complete the bottom city of the propeller, the blade should be sandpapered as well as the top. The method of cutting the second propeller is exactly the two in cutting the first propeller, only that the diagram shown in Fig. 4 should be used. This will result in 2 propellers being made that will revolve in opposite directions in order to produce even and balanced propulsion. If both propellers revolved in the same direction, the effect would be to return the model. In diagram, if the propellers are shown with the straight edge as the entering or cutting edge off the blade, Some off-theme model builders. Model aeroplanes, Diagram 3. Instruction 15, prefer thick-curved edges, thick-cutting edge. Diagram 2. It is significant that Mr. Frank Scober, all-known model constructor, tested both designs on his compressed air-driven model, and while both propellers were the same in weight, diameter, and pitch, the one having the straight edges thick-cutting edge was found 1/3 more efficient. When the propellers have been given a light coat of shellac, they should be laid aside until the assembling off the complete model. I following the foregoing instructions, a simple and effective set of propellers will produced. But in order to have experimental practice off the constructor various other diagrams, NOS 3 and 4, illustrating suitable designs, are provided and can be made by applying the above general theory and using diagrams herewith. Wings. One of the most important considerations in the construction of a model is the making of 16 model aeroplanes wings. To obtain the greatest efficiency, the wings must be carefully designed, with due attention to whether the model is being constructed for speed, duration, or climbing ability. Attention should be given to streamline construction. That is, the parts of the wing should be so assembled that the completed wing would offer the least possible resistance to the air if the best results are to be obtained. Fourth, the main wing 3 strips off spruce, each 30 in length, two of them being 3-16, XJ4 and the third 3-16, X1-16 are required. To make them thoroughly streamline, ledges should be carefully rounded off and all surfaces should be smooth. A strip of bamboo at least 20 long, Y2, J thick should be cut in toe pieces, each piece toe 5 in long, to secure the necessary curve % depth. Pieces of bamboo should be held in steam and slow light in a manner closely resembling skids off an ordinary bobsled. When the curvature has been obtained, care should be exercised in cutting each piece in tofferlongi. Construction diagram 4. 18 model aeroplanes tudinal strips, from which 12 should be selected tobe Eustace ribs, each tobe JJ wide. The bending off the bamboo preliminary tomahawking the ribs is done in order to secure uniformity of curvature. When this has been done, the ribs are ready for fastening to the sticks entering and trail in edges, and each must be at equal distance apart. In order that the ribs may be evenly spaced, it is necessary to mark every 3 on the larger stick or entering edge off the wing, and also on the flat stick or trailing edge. The main beam, which ice off the solid dimensions, is the entering edges afterwards, fastened across the center off the wing, and does not necessarily need tobe this marked. A side is fastened to the ribs after the rib shave been attached to the entering and trailing edges of the wing frame. By holding the rib so not a time, saw that the curved edge rests up in the entering edge where the mark indicates, as shown in diagram 5, they should be fastened thereon by means of thread angelu. Their errand off. Instruction 19. The rib must be fastened to the trailing edge where the mark indicates, also by thread and glue. After all rib shave being thus securely fast end to both edges off the frame, the third stick, or main beam, should be attached to the frame on the underside, the fastening being made at the highest point off the curve ofach rib. This main beam prevents thewing covering from drawing in the dribs and adds free material allied to the strength off the entire wing structure. To cover the wings, fiber paper may be used and is a suitable material, but the best results, from a standpoint of laying efficiency and long service, are obtained by use of China silk. The frame off the forward wing or levator is made in the same manner as the main wing, but it is only 12 in span before incord and is constructed without use of a main beam. This wing has some lift ribs which are made in the same manner as those for the rear wing, and each is placed at a distance of 3 apart. 20 model aeroplanes, diagram 5. Instruction 21. A piece of silk measuring 2 longer and 2 wider than each off the wing frame should be used in covering the wings, and the scam held in position by the use of bins prior to the actual sewing. The extra inch of silk on all sides off the frame is placed around the underside off the frame in order that it can be made thoroughly taut when the silk has been sewn close to the edges off the frame. After the silk has been sewn close to the edges, the pins may be removed and the surplus silk that hangs from the underside off the frame may be cut off. To make this silk air-proof, it should be coated with a thin coat of shellac or varnish, and thewings should be thoroughly dried before being used. This coating, in addition to waterproofing, will assist in making the covering perfectly taut, and also in making thewing ready for service when the entire model is ready to be assembled. Frame azalother parts off the model area attached to the frame in addition to to stand. 22 model aeroplanes, the strain off the tightly wound rubber strands which serve as the motive power for the model, it must be made strong. It is thorough for Nice's Saratoga exercise carrying judgment in making certain that the different units that make up the frame are rightly proportioned and are of proper material. Just as in the large-sized aeroplanes, there are many types of bodies, so there are many different types of frames in use in model construction, but the standard, for all practical purposes, the best frame, resembles the letter A shape, hence the name A-type. The lightness of the frame depends entirely on the materials used and the manner in which it is constructed. Some model flyers use a single stick for the frame, But generally the A-type frame is preferred for the reason that it is more durable, thewings can be more securely attached to it, and that it is possible of developing very much better results. To construct such an A-type frame, two main sticks toes of his frame side members Aeronesses. Members of Aero Science Club, members of Milwaukee and Illinois Model Aero Clubs. Page 46. Instruction 23. Sorry, and they're made from spruce. Each member should be 36 in length, Y% in depth by J4 in width. By rounding the edges and smoothing the various surfaces with sandpaper streamline, effect will be secured and will add to the efficiency of the machine as well as to its appearance. When the side members are placed in a formation, the extremity of the sticks at which they meet should be soldered in thinner sides that when they meet tender permanently, fastened their salt will be continuance of general streamline effect. The permanent fastening of the frame side members at head point off may be accomplished by using either strongfish glue or better. A good waterproof glue and then have the jointure reinforced by securing a piece of 3-32 steel wire 3 in length and placing the center off it at the point off the. Afterwards bending the wire along either outer edge off the frame side members, putting as much pressure on the wire as the strength of the structure will permit. After this the reinforced jointure should have 24 model airplanes wound around it to ensure even greater strength. About Y* off the wire on each side off the point should be left clear and afterwards turned in tolu pass on in diagram 6, for the purpose of attaching the hooks that hold the rubber strands. To hold the side members apart at her end and for a propeller brace, a piece of bamboo 10 long, J, thick by J in width is required and this should be fastened to the extreme rear ends off the frame side members, allowing the propeller brace to protrude one of their side edge for, as illustrated. To put the propeller brace in position a slot * deep by and wide should be cute into the rear ends off frame side members for the reception of the propeller brace. After the brace has been placed in position, the outer edge should come flush with their rear ends off the side members. To hold the brace in place, thread angle should be used in the same manner as described for the point off the frame side member. Between the point off the frame and the propeller brace, two bamboo pieces, 1/9 long-ended. Construction diagram 6. 26 model airplanes other 21-3 long should be used as braces for the general strengthening of the structure. The longest piece should be secured across the top of the frame about 9, from their rear end the shorter piece about 9, from the point. When these two braces are in position, the next matter that calls forth the attention of the constructor is the matter of getting into position at het outer extremities of the propeller brace bearings for the propellers. For this purpose, two pieces of 3-32" brass tubing, each YTH an inch long, should be used and should be fastened to the underside of the propeller brace, at each extremity of that brace by the off thread angle. Sometimes greater efficiency is secured by putting these pieces off bronze tubing about Y from thined. Some model constructors make a very nat jointure, here by soldering the piece off tubing toe strip off thin brass, which is bent over thined off the propeller brace and bound angle thereon. In fastening the bronze tubing to the propeller brace, it should be so. Instruction 27, adjusted that it will run parallel to the side members off the frame and will therefore offer the least possible resistance to the shaft off the propeller when the rubber strands have been attached. When the frame has been completed, a coat off shellac should be applied to the entire structure to render it damp-proof. Assembling the proper assembling off the parts off the model is essential to good results assist designing and making. Parts, although properly made, if improperly placed in relation to each other will very often lead to trouble. Therefore, very great care must be exercised in the assembling process. When all the parts have been prepared and are ready to be assembled, the first thing that should be done is to mount the propellers in position. This must be done very carefully on account of the fact that the propeller shafts are easily bent and if bent the result is considered. 28 model airplanes able trouble, for such a bend in the propeller shaft will cause the propeller to revolve irregularly with a consequent loss of thrust. Before inserting the propeller shafts in the tubing, 4 washers, each $1 in diameter, should be cut from hard metal, and a hole large enough for the propeller shaft to pass through should be bored in the center of each washer. The metal washers should be passed over the straight ends off the shafts which extend from their of the tubing. After they have been inserted in tubing, and in this manner the cutting into the hubs off the propellers which would follow is avoided. The propellers aerono-tobe mounted anthighs is accomplished by allowing thines off the shafts, which extend out from their off the tubing, to pass through the hole in the hubo-fatch propeller. In mounting the propellers, it is absolutely necessary to have the straight edge off the propellers to face at the point or front end of the model. The propeller shown in Fig. 4 off diagram I should be mounted on the left side off the frame torval, instruction 29 to the left, while the propeller shown in Fig. I should be mounted on the right side off the frame torval to the right. When the propellers have thus been mounted, the 1/2 inch of shafting, which extends out from the hubs off the propellers, should be bent over to grip the propeller huben thuribai prevent the shaft from slipping during thune winding of the rubber strands. Orthoreception off the rubber strands top provide motive power hook must be formed in each shaft and this can dome beholding securely that portion off the shaft which extends toward the point off model, while themed is being formed in toa hook as illustrated in diagram 7. 84 feet of JTH flat rubber is necessary to propel the model. This should be strung one each side from the hooks, see diagram, at front part off the model to the propeller shafts at hurry off the model. In this way 14 strands off rubber will be evenly strung one each city off the frame. To facilitate the winding off the rubbers, 2 double hooks made. Model aeroplanes diagram 7. Instruction 31 of 3-32. Steel wire torsible thelider S, as shown in diagram 7 should be made. One end of this hook should be caught on the frame hook, while the other end is attached to the strands off rubber, and to prevent thepos sibyl cutting off the strands a piece off rubber tubing gisus tar cover over all wire hooks that come in contact with the rubber strands providing propelling power. Ewing's arrow mounted on the top city off the frame members by means off rubber bands, and in placing theme upon the frame, it should be noted that the entering edge of fatchwing must face the point or front off the model. The wings must be so adjusted on the frame that they result in perfect side balance, which means that there is an even amount off surface on either city off the model. To secure a longitudinal balance, it will be found that the enter in edge off the main wing should be placed approximately 8 from the propeller brace or rear off the model, and the entering edge off the small wing or elevator approximately 6 from 32 model airplanes step point. But it is on the bites flying thought a true balance off the entire model can be obtained. To give the necessary power of elevation or lifting ability to make the model rise, a small block off with about I long b percent square must be placed between the entering edge off the small wing and the frame off the model. After thewings have been thews adjusted, and a short test flight made to perfect the flying and elevating ability off the model. This test flight has been satisfactory. The model is ready for launching under its full motive power. Launching in the preliminary rituals off a model close at tension must be paid to the few structural adjustments that will be found to be necessary and which, if not properly and quickly remedied, will result in the prevention of good flights or even impossible wrecking off the model. Careful designing and construction are necessary, but it is quality as important that the model. Charles W. Mayers and Henry Criscooley and Viv William Hodgins exhibit foot model. This model may be disassembled and packed conveniently in small packaging models O'Farley design. Harry G. Schultz Hydro-Aeroplane. Page 58. Instruction 33 should be properly handled when it is complete and ready for flying. The approximate idea off the balance of a model can be secured by launching it gently into the air. If the model dives down point first, it indicates that the main wing should be moved a little toward the front. If it rises abruptly, the main wing should be moved slightly toward their R. In this way, be moving the wing forward or rearward until the model glides away gracefully and lands flat upon the ground. Proper adjustment off the balance can be effected. If when launching from the hand the model should curve to the left, the main wing should be moved slightly to the left off the frame members, and if the curve is to the right, the main wing should be moved in that direction. This process can be continued until the model flies in the course desired. Thewing off the rubber strands, toge, necessary propelling power is an important tail. The model should be firmly held by some 1/3 with the thumb one either side. 34 model aeroplanes member, pressing down on the jointure, and with the finger so much hand gripping the undercity off the frame members, and in this way holding the model steady, and until the rubber strands have been sufficiently wound. With the hands in this position, the propellers, of course, cannot and should not revolve. The hooks attached to the rubber strands at head point or front off the model should be detached from the side members and affixed to the hooks off the winder. A winder may be made from an ordinary egg beater as shown in diagram 8. When the hooks attached to the rubber strands at head point off the model have been affixed to the winder, the rubbers should be stretched 4 times their ordinary length. Good rubber being capable of being stretched 7 times its length, and the winding commenced, the person winding slowly moving in towards the model as the strands wound. If the ratio off the winder is 5 to I, that is if the rubber is twisted 5 times to every revolution off the main wheel off the winder, 100 turns of. Construction 35 diagram 8. 36 model aeroplanes, the winder will be sufficient for the first trial. This propelling power can be increased as the trials proceed. When thewing has been accomplished, the rubber hooks should be tacked from the winder hooks and attached to the hooks at front off the side members as shown in the diagram. In preparation for launching, the model should be held above the head, one hand holding it at the center off the frame, either in center off the propeller brace in such a way as to prevent the propellers from revolving. When the model is cast into the if it is early adjusted, it will fly straight ahead. A precaution which is sometimes worthy of attention before the launching of the model, under its full power is to out the propellers, to find out whether or not the are properly mounted and whether they revolve evenly and easily. Todathis the rubber strands may be given a few turns. Enough to revolve the propellers for a brief period, while the machine is held stationary. If the shafts have been propped. Instruction 37 early inserted in the hubs off the propellers and have not been bending thunding off the rubbers, the propellers will revolve evenly and readily. If the propellers revolve unsteadily, it indicates that there is a bend in the propeller shafts or the propellers have not been properly balanced. If the trouble is a bend in the shaft, it must be removed before the model is launched on actual flight. The propeller does not travel with the application of some lubrication, such as Vaseline, the shaft will eliminate this trouble. With these adjustments made satisfactorily, the model can be launched with the anticipation of good flying. Chassis. The preceding instructions and discussions have dealt with different parts of a simple model, to boost a hand-launched type of model. The experience which will come is result of flying this type of model for a period will undoubtedly tend toward a desire on the part of the constructor to make his model more. Model aeroplanes. Diagram 9. Instruction 39 nearly represent a large-sized aeroplane and will make him want to have his model rise from the ground under its own power. Such a model is known as an R-O-G type, that is, rises off the ground. To meet this desire, all that it is necessary to do is to make a chassis or carriage which can be secured to the frame of the model and with extra power added will result in a practical R-O-G model. Constructing such a chassis or carriage it is necessary to bear in mind that it must be made sufficiently strong to withstand the shock and stress, which it will beckle upon to stand when the model descends to the ground. Fourth, the main struts off the chassis, 2 pieces of bamboo each 9 in length are needed, and these should be bent over on as shown in the diagram, that the may be fast end to the undercity off the frame members, one on either side, at a point on that member 12 from the front. 2 similar pieces of bamboo, each piece about 7 in length, are required to cast braces between the frame or the model aeroplanes bersant the main chassis struts. Each off the braces should be bent over in the same direction and in the same manner as that described. Fourth, the main strut soth at thefestin, ing to the main frame member and the main chassis strut may be accomplished. Steam may be used in bending things off the pieces of bamboo. I'll make the landing chassis sufficient listable to withstand landing. Shocks. A piece off bamboo 9 should be fastened from either city off the main chassis, struts at head point, where the chassis brace one other side meets with main strut. Things off this cross brace should be bent in similar fashion to the other braces, tonable its being fastened easily and securely. 2 small wheels constitute the running gear for the front part of the chassis, or which 2 pieces of 1-16 steel wire each 2L/long are required. These small wires are fastened to the bottom ends off the main struts, and to accomplish this the wire should be bent in center at right angles, 1 leg off the inglaze. Instruction 41 attached to the bottom end of the main strut, as shown in the diagram. Discs 4 wheels may be cut from a bottle cork which should be 4 in diameter by approximately y/in thickness. The edges should be rounded off to prevent chipping. Before mounting the wheels on the axles which have been provided by the wires attached to the bottom off the main struts. Piece of bronze tubing 3-32, inside diameter and 3-16, long should be inserted in the center of each disc. To secure the least possible resistance on the revolutions off the wheels, there should be placed on the wire axles pieces of bronze tubing similar in diameter and %, in length one either city off the wheel. See illustration. And the wheel is placed in position with the pieces of bronze tubing one either side about % off the wire will extend from the outward end of the outside piece of tubing. This should be bent over the tubing to prevent its falling off and at his at time hold the wheel securely in position. Fourth, the rear skid a piece of bamboo 6 long. 42 model aeroplanes is used, one end off which is curved as a hockey stick so that it will glide smoothly over the ground. The other end of the rear skid should be bent over about y* so that it can securely fasten to the propeller braces, as illustrated in the diagram. 7 pieces of bamboo are required to test braces for the rear skid. Both ends of each brace strut are bent over J4 in the same direction. One end off each strut is securely fastened to side member 3. From there and the other end of each strut is fastened to the rear skid. A tear point off meeting as shown in diagram 9. The method of attaching being the same as in the case of the forward portion of the chassis. All joining should be accomplished by first gluing the braces and then binding with thread. When completed, there are skid should glide along the ground in bobsled fashion, thus preventing the propellers from hitting the ground. In making such a chassis or carriage, the endeavor should be made taus, as near as possible, the same weight of material one other side. Construction 43 diagram 10. 44 model airplanes off the model so little interference as possible will be made with the general balance off the model in flight. Pontoons having satisfactorily developed the hand-launched model and the model rising off ground under its own propulsion, The constructor will next in his mind Todexion of having his model rise under its own power, from the surface off the in the fashion, off-bus senger carrying hydros and flying boats. This will be accomplished by the off pontoon set, tack to specially designed chassis. 3 pontoons are necessary, and these should be made as slight as possible. Each pontoon should be made 6 long I deep toward the forward part, by 4, at her rear end 2 wide. The side members of each pontoon are made from pieces of thin white pine wood I 32nd off an inch thick, slightly curved up at the front and slip down toward their arm. Small niches should be made on the top and bottom sides, off the pontoons in tow hitch thickross. CV. Upst world record flying boat twin tractor hydro aeroplane, designed and constructed by George F. McLaughlin Louis Bamberger's hydro, about to leave surface off water. Page 72. Instruction 45 braces air inserted angelude. Further refer and set toe diagram 10 will show that at extreme forward end of the side, a cut is made large in order to receive a flat piece off spruce 1-16 wide. Another cut off the solid dimensions is made at extreme rear end. Still further cuts are made on the top and bottom sides off the pontoons. The forward cuts me as uring /Y2, from the front and the rear cuts IJ4 from there off. I'll join the sides off the pontoons as illustrated in diagram 10. 6 pieces of II6, flat spruce are required for the rear pontoon, thenes off which are held in posi tiambiglu. For the forward pontoon only 4 braces are required insofar thenes off, 2 main brace spars off the forward part off, chassis are inserted in the cuts on the sides off the pontoon. These brace spars measure 10 inches in length and are made from bamboo 2/8 inch in diameter, which necessitates enlargement off the cuts on the sides. Off, forward pontoons soft at the extreme and soft the spars can be inserted in the cuts in the place. 46 model aeroplanes off the braces. To complete there are pontoon and prepare it for covering. 3 strips of Y% bamboo are required for struts. 2 of these strips should measure 9 in length and should be attached to the front off the pontoon on the inner side as shown in diagram 10. Thread angelu should be used in attaching thenes off the strips to the pontoon. Tone able fastening at the frame upper ends of the bamboo strips should be bent over about Y2. The 3rd strip should measure 8 in length and is attached to the upper and lower braces toward the front off the pontoon as shown in the diagram. It is necessary that this strip be secured in the proximate center off the pontoon to ensure a good balance. For the purpose of securing the upper end of the 3rd strut to the center off the propeller brace, a piece of wire ridge long should be secured to the upper end of the strut and looped as shown in diagram 10. The 3 pontoons should now be covered with fiber paper and it is necessary to exercise care to avoid punctures. For instruction 47, the purpose of coating the fiber paper to render it waterproof. A satisfactory solution can be made by mixing banana oil with celluloid until it has attained the desired thickness, after which it should be applied to the covering of the pontoons with a soft brush. For the main strut off the forward portion of the chassis 2 pieces of Y, bamboo, each 11, in length, are required and these should be bent over I on an end as shown in diagram. At the may be fastened to the dirsity off the frame members, 1 on either side at a point on that member and from the front. 2 similar pieces off bamboo, each piece 8, in length, are required toktis braces between the frame members and the main chassis struts. Each end of the braces should be bent over in the same direction and in the same manner as that described for the main struts so that the fastening to the main frame member and the main chassis struts may be accomplished. Steam or an alcohol lamp may be used in bending thenes off the piece of soft. 48 model aeroplanes bamboo. To make the chassis sufficiently stable, a piece off bamboo 7 should be fast-ended from either city off the main chassis struts at head point where the chassis brace one other side meets with the main strut. Thenes of this cross brace should be bent in similar fashion to the other braces, tonable its being fastened easily and permanently. 4th accommodation off the pontoons 2 strips offlet steel wire, each 4, in length, should be attached to thenes off the main struts. About 1 inch from the bottom, the farthest ends should be bent to grip the second spar which joins the pontoons. Note diagram 10. To further strengthen the chassis, a strip of flat steel wire sufficiently long enough should be bent soft at % off the central portion can securely fastened to the center off the cross brace as shown in diagram 10. Thetwo outer ends should be bent down and erfas 10 to the wires which area attached to the bot tomans off the struts. This method off Erwin B. airing about Torlease ROG model. Note manner off holding propellers. Kenneth Sedgwick tractor record holder Milwaukee Model Club, courtesy Gilbert Council. Wade Carl releasing ROG model, courtesy Edward P. Warner. Page 78. Instruction 49 tacking the forward pontoons enables the constructor to adjust them to night sired angle and also detach them when not in use. A model hydro-aeroplane is one of the most interesting types of models, and if properly taken care of will afford the constructor many pleasant moments. Launching an ROG or model hydro-aeroplane all that method of determining the ansi of an ROG or a model hydro-aeroplane is exactly the same as that of a hand launch model. Themener off-launching is somewhat different. Instead of holding the model one hand in the center off the frame and the other at there are asynthekes off the hand launched model, in launching an ROG. Or hydro, the model should be rested up in the ground or water, as the case may be, with both hands holding tightly to the propellers. Then when about told the model release both propellers instantly. If the model has sufficient power, if the model aeroplanes and ithis being properly adjusted it will glide over the surface off the ground or water for a short distance, then rise into the air. Should the model fail to rise into the air additional strands off rubber should be did, after which it should be wound and a scan attempt made. Should the model fail to respond after the addition of extra rubber, the indications are that something requires further adjustment. Perhaps the pontoons need further elevation if the model is a hydro, or if it being ROG model the forward wing may require an increase of elevation. In any event, the model should be carefully examined and adjustments made where necessary, after which the model should be tested for balance and elevation. If Saudis feed with the behavior off the model after test flights have been made, another attempt should be made to launch the model from the ground or water. Ono counter to fly the model in house or sea, supposing the model ice off R. Instruction 510. G. Type if it will rise from the dining room floor. This advice may seem unnecessary, but it is not so, for there has been quite a number of instances in which the above has been done, nearly always with disastrous results, not al waste to the model, more often to something of much greater value. The smashing off windows has often resulted from such attempts, but generally speaking pictures are fewer sufferers. It is equally unwise to attempt to fly the model in a garden in which there are numerous obstructions, such as trees and so forth. Orect model is very often their salt of such experimenting. The safest way to determine the flying ability often a model is to take it out in an open field where its flight is less apt to be interrupted. World record models the Lauder distance and duration model after many months of experimentation, Mr. Wallace A. Lauder succeeded in producing a model that proved to be one of his most successful models. Beauty years ago flights of 1,000 feet with a duration of 60 seconds were considered remarkable. But so rapid has been the development of the rubber strand-driven model that it is hardly considered worth, while to measure a flight of 1,000 feet. Specialing contests where models fly over 2,500 feet or 3,537 feet which was the distance flown by Mr. Lauder's model during one of the contests off National Model Aeroplane Competition of 1915. Mr. Lauder's model on several occasions made flights off over 3,500 feet with a duration in each event off over 195 seconds. It is therefore to be remembered that this model 52, Lauder World Record Model 53 is both a distance and duration model, both qualities being seldom found in one model. Reference to the accompanying drawing will give a clear idea of the constructional details. The frame or fuselage consists of both side members 40 in length, off straight grain spruce. At his center each member is approximately cross section and is J4 MDI diameter. The members taper to about 3-16 at themes, circular cross section being maintained throughout. The frame is braced by a strip off bamboo off streamlined form, extending from one side member to the other, 18, from thepex off the frame. Themes off this frame arabant torum parallel to the side members of the frame where they are secured by binding with silk thread and gluing. Piano wire hooks aerial so secured to the side members off the frame adjacent themes off that cross brace, and from these hooks extend wires off steel. No. 2 music wire, which run diagonal to the rear brace or propeller spar where they are secured. 54 model aeroplanes blank diagram in. Order World Record Model 55, the frame is braced further by an upwardly arched shed strip off bamboo, as shown in diagram 11, this strip being 2J. In height, at head top off this brace are at Wabron strips of no. 32 gauge brass, one above the other, one on top off the brace and the other below. Adjacent themes off these strips off metal are perforations through which pass bracing wires, one of which wires run to the front off the frame where a hook is mounted for its reception, and the other wires extend to the rear off the frame where they are secured to the propeller brace. The propeller brace consists of a strip off streamlined spruce and 4, in length, the propellers being at an angle, thus clearance is allowed J4, wide at his center, tapering to 3-16 at heens. Theens off the propeller brace extend out 1 inch from the side members off the frame, to low room for the rubber strands to boost its motive power. In order to avoid slotting theens off the side members off the frame so that the propeller brace can be secured therein. Thin strips off bamboo areas. 56 model aeroplanes cured above and below thiendo fatch side member, by binding with silk thread and gluing. The space between the bamboo strips being utilized for the brace which is securely bound and glued therein. The propeller bearing consist off strips off earthen bronze, no. 32 gauge, about 3-16 in width, bent over $% strips of German silver tubing, the tubing being soldered to the bronze strips and the propeller brace, which fits between the upper and lower portions of the bronze strips, is securely bound and glued thereto. The propellers are cut from solid blocks of pine and are 12 in diameter. The blade at its widest portion measure cjms. The blades are cut very thin and in order to save weight they are in a shellacked or painted. The propeller shafts are of piano wire no. 20 size toffet tubing used in the bearings. Pass through the propellers and are bent over on the outer side top revent turning. A few small bronze washers are interposed between the propellers and the outer and soft the tubing. Wallace A. Lauder Distance and Duration Model Wallace A. Lander R.O.G. Model. Page 88. Order World Record Model 57 to minimize friction when the propellers are revolving. 12 strands off rubber arrowed 4H propeller, the rubber being flat. Thewings are both double-surfaced and are off the swept back type. The span off the main wing is 28% with accord of 6y2. The elevator has a span of 15 with accord of 4. The main wing has 11 double ribs, these ribs being built upon main beams off spruce I-16, X3-16. The front beam being placed EJ4 from thentering edge, and the second beam being 2 back from the front beam. Thentering gan trailing edge are formed from ass and glestrip off thin split bamboo, all thread joints being made by binding with thin silken gluing. The elevator is constructed in like manner except that it only has 7 ribs, and the Mia's Urmans area sabo set forth. Both planes are covered with gold beater skin, sometimes known as zephyr skin, which is first glued in place and then steamed, which tightens the same in Zeppelin, and Givencor of prepara tionist for this purpose. The Hiddle World Record Model, single tractor monoplane, 116 seconds duration rising from water. The Kittle World Record Model Hydro Aeroplane, designed and constructed by Mr. Lindsay Kittle of Illinois Model Aero Club, is perhaps one of the most interesting types of models yet produced. Establishing off this record illustrates the value of careful designing and construction and offers to the beginner an example which might be followed if good results are sought. In having broken Thewell's model hydro-aeroplane record with Attractor type model, Mr. Kittle accomplished a feat of twofold importance. First, in having advanced the possibilities of the tractor model, and second, in illustrating the value of scientific construction. The previous record for 58. The world record model 59. This type of model has been but 29 seconds, just 1/4 of the duration made by Mr. Hitt's model. Mr. Hittle's model shows many new and original features, neither the two combined on any one model. No T diagram 12. The model is extremely lightweight, weighing complete but 175 ounces. The floats and their attachments have been sewed as to for the least possible wind resistance. In fact, every possible method was utilized in order to cut down weight and resistance one very part off the model. A result off this doing away with resistance excellent gliding ratio of 8:4 to I has been obtained. Fourth, the motor base off the model a single stick, off-white pine %, deep end 45, in length is used. On the front end, the bearing for the propeller is bound with silk thread and a waterproof glue off the constructor's own composition being used to hold it secure. Fourth, the bearing gas small lightweight, forging somewhat in the shape of the letter L is used, this being made stream. 60 model aeroplanes line. At her end off the motor base is attacked a piano wire hook fourth rubber. The stabilizer consisting of a fascicle measuring 12x8 is attached to the undercity off the motor base. The rudder measuring 3x3 is attached to the stabilizer at rear off the motor base. The wing is built to POF Duobams off-white pine with ribs and tips of bamboo and has an area of 215 square inches, the wing which has a total span of 43, and a chord of 5 Vispel to POF Duobams of white pine with ribs and tips of bamboo, and has a total area of 215 square inches. The wing is given a small dihedral and thewing tips are slightly upturned at her rear. The trailing edge is longer than thentering edge, the ribs being placed somewhat obliquely in order to secure aimant spacing. The wingies attached to the frame bite with small bamboo clips which hold it rigidly and permit easy adjustment and is at an angle off about 4 degrees with the line-off thrust. Both the Kittle World Record Model 61 Platy Viet S, Diagram 12, 62 model aeroplanes floats which take practical whole weight off the machine are situated directly under the wing just far enough behind the center of gravity to prevent the model from tipping backward. These floats are attached to the motor base by means of streamlined bamboo struts. Bamboo is also used in the construction of float frames. A single float of triangular sections is situated just behind the propeller. The entire weight of the floats and their attachments is but 23 ounces. The propeller, which consists of her blades ispel two POF propellers joined together at the hubs and securely glued, the completed propeller having a diameter of 10 with a theoretic cowpitch of 14. The blades are a fairlinar row, tapering almost toe point at the tips. The propeller is driven by 5 strands of %6 strip rubber at about 760 rpm, and the model is in flight. At Headheim, when the model made its record flight of 116 seconds, the rubber was given 1,500 turns, which isn't the maximum number of turns. At other times, the It'll World Record Mokel 63 model has flown satisfactorily with less turns off the rubber. While in the model flies very slow and stable notwithstanding its light weight and larger surface. On 3 occasions, the model has made durations of approximately 90 seconds, which rather dispenses the possibility of its being termed a free. The latter flying boat won off the most notable results of National Model Airplane Competition of 1915, was establishing of a world's record for flying boats. Considering that the model flying boat is a difficult type of model to construct and fly, the establishing of this new world record of 43 seconds is remarkable. Credit for this performance is to Mr. Robert Latour of Pacific Northwest Model Aero Club, who designed, constructed and flew the model flying boat which issued with described and illustrated. Diagram 13. The frame is made of laminated spruce 40 in length, made oft with strips glued together. They are %X% at Hesenter tapering to %E_X% at Heens. The cross braces are of split bamboo and are fastened to the frame side members by bringing them to widget and Santhan inserting them into slots in 64. At our flying boat, 65 sides off the frame side members and are finally drilled and bound to the ladder. There are brace ice of streamlined spruce 4XJ. This butts against the frame side members and is bound to them. The propeller accommodations are made off brass. The propellers are 10 in diameter with a 19 pitch. These are carved from a block of Alaska cedari % wide by thick. Of course, the propellers may also be made from white pine. However, in the propellers 15 strands of Y% flat rubber arrows. Bamboo about VIG squareasus tube-tain the lut line off the wings. The main wing has a span off 33 with accord of 5T/2. Split bamboo is used for the making off 9 ribs. The wings sparrow brace ice of spruce %E_X% and is fastened below the ribs as illustrated in diagram 13. The elevator is constructed in like manner but the saspen off only I7X424 and has only 5 ribs. A block % high is used for elevation. Both wings have a camber of J4 and are covered on the upper side with silk. 66 model aeroplanes diagram 13. At our flying boat 67, doped with a special varnish and a coats of white shellac. The boat is 20 long, 3 in width and shaped as hone. The slip is 2 deep and is located 7 from Thebo. The rear end is brought down steeply to avoid the drag off the uator on this point when the boat I leaving the surface off the uator. Spruce % for THS off an inch thick is used for the macking off the sides, but the cross bracing is of slightly heavier material, there being 6 braces used throughout. The rear brace is much heavier in order to withstand the pull-off thick of ring and torsive themes of the wire connections. The outrigger sorbal ansing pontoons are constructed off the same material as that of the boat and are held together by a spruce beam 18 long, Y2 and wide B % E, thick, streamlined. This beam is fastened to the boat by means of 3 brads to permit changing if necessary. The lower edge soft outriggers should clear the water above. At J before the steps on the boat leave the water. The boat and outriggers are covered with silk. 68 model airplanes shrunk with a special solution and then coated several times with white shellac. It is a good plan to shellac the interior walls off the boat and pontoons before covering to prevent them from losing their form by becoming soft from the influence of water in the case of apuncture. The boat is connected to the frame at its front by steel wires, their ends being inserted into the cross members off the boat, and then brought up along the sides, crossed, and then bound to the frame. Similar pair-off connecting wires arrows to connect, there are end of the boat to the rear end off the frame. O-shaped wire is bound to the outrigger beam and frame. A single diagonal strip of bamboo is also fastened to the outrigger beam with abred, its upper end being bound to the cross bracing off the frame, making a very solid connection. Under ideal weather conditions, this model will fly in 12 strands off rubber with the possibility of a better duration than has been made. But however, with 15 strands, the model will. That our flying boat 69 Rice-8 attempt. More rubber, however, causes the bow of the boat to no sunder and to accommodate this increase of power the boat should be lengthened. The Cook No. 42 world record model, twin propeller hydro-aeroplane, IU. 6 seconds rising from water during the National Model Aeroplane Competition of 1915 held under the auspices of Aero Club of America. A number of new world records were established, one of which was for twin propeller hydro-aeroplanes. The credit for this record is to Mr. Ellis C. Cook of Illinois Model Aero Club, succeeded in getting his model hydro-aeroplane, which by the way is a rather difficult type of model, to operate ice from the water and remain in the air for a duration of 106 seconds. This model ice off the common frame design with the floats or pontoons are in the familiar fashion, 2 forward and 2 aft. The model is fairly light, weighing when complete 33370. The Cook No. 42 model 71 ounces, ounce off which is made upin rubber strands for motive power. Diagram 14. The frame is made off 2 sticks off white pine for side members, each member measuring $81A in length, 5/I6 in depth, by H in width. These Aracuto taper toward Thienswer Thayerly VS in width by %E in depth in frontendry respectively. 3x strips off streamlined bamboo measuring %E in width by %4 THS off an inch in depth. Arust 4 bracking theframe between thefront and rand area dash showed in diagram 14. The propeller bearing serif small streamlined forging soft lightweight, and airbound taw the rear and dofach side member first begluing, then binding around with thread. Thefront hook is made of no. 16 piano wire end is bound taw the frame ashone in diagram 14. The chassis which holds thefloats or pontoonsis made of %2 bamboo bent taw shape and bound taw the frame members. By Thusi off rubber strands, thefloats area attached taw the chassis. 72 model aeroplanes the forward once being attached saw the tangle may be adjusted. The main wing has a span of 36 and a chord of 5, and is constructed off 12 height pine beams each 39 long with bamboo wing tips. The ribs, 7 in number, aerial saw made off bamboo and are spaced along the edges of the wing at a distance of 4 apart. The elevator or front wing has a span of 14 and a chord of 3, 4. The framework off which is made entirely off bamboo. The entering edge off the swing is given a slightly greater dihedral saw that thingle off incidence at hytipsis, greater than at his center. By this method the added incidence in the front wing is obtained. By Thusi off rubber bands both wings area tack taw the frame. The two forward floats are spaced 8 inches apart and are off the step type, the step being 3% from thefront and hesate off 5%. These two floats are separated by 2 bamboo strips as shown in the diagram. Thekuk no, 42 model 73 Ku JC Kidro. Diagram 14. 74 model aeroplanes which are tied to the rounded portion of the undercarriage by small rubber bands. By the slitting off these strips back and forth the necessary angle off the floats may be obtained to suit conditions. The floats are built up with 2 thin pieces off white pine for sides, separated by small pieces off wood about 1/2 the size of a matching cross-section. Chiffon veiling which is used for the covering off the wings is also used for the covering off the floats, after which it is covered with a special preparation tour under both the wings and the floats are tight. The 2 10-inch propellers with which the model is fitted have a theoretical pitch of 12 and 1/2 inches. The propellers are carved from blanks 1/2 inch thick, the blades off the completed propellers having a maximum width off 1 inch at a radius of 3 inches. The propeller shafts are made from no. 16 piano wire and have small wash earth for bearings. Each propeller is driven by 3 strands of stripe plastic. The rub, Ekuk no, 42 model 75 her is given 1,700 to 1,750 turns and revolves the propeller sat 1,150-1,200 r.p.m. when the model is in flight. The model usually runs over the surface of the water for a distance off from 2 or 3 feet before it rises, after which it climbs at a very steep angle to the necessary altitude. The model seems, when in flight, tobe slightly overpowered but thighs is misleading. The rubbers usually unwind in from 85 to 90 seconds. On 4 out of 6 flights this model has made a duration off between 98 and 100 seconds, which is rather unusual for a model off thighs type. A redefunct duration model OF the many different types of duration models that they've made their appearance during the year of 1915, perhaps the model described herewith. Constructed and flown by Mr. Rudolf Funk, off Aero Science Club, was one of the most successful. Unlike most models, the propellers off this model are been and cut. This model made its appearance during the latter part of 1915, on several occasions having flown for over 100 seconds duration. Diagram 15. While retaining the important characteristics of a standard model, slight changes have been made. Instead of the usual wire for the construction of the frame of the wings, bamboo is used in its place for lightness and strength. Thewing frames are a single-surfaced, China 76, a defunct model 77 silk being used for covering. The dope which is used to render the silk airtight is made by dissolving celluloid in banana oil. This in turn is applied to the silk with a soft brush. The camber off the main wing is 24, at the center, with a slight reduction towards the negative tips. It also has a hedral angle of 2 degrees. The main beam, which is secured to the underside off the frame for rigidness, is off spruce I by 5-64. Apparinto 4, x5-64. The ribs for the main wing and small winger elevator are cut from solid pieces off bamboo 3-16 thick BJ4 wide. These pieces off bamboo are first bent to the proper camber and then cutinto strips each 1-16 wide. The ribs are next tapered to at the bottom, toward the trailing edge, as shown in diagram 15, and also toward the entering edge. To accommodate the entering and trailing edge soft frame, each rib is slit slightly at both ends. Both edges off the frame are then inserted in slots at heens off the ribs and bound around with silk thread. Model aeroplanes diagram 15. A defunct model 79, the frame is composed of twistics off silver spruce 38. In length, 5-16, x 3-16, Taparinto J4 x 5-32, held apart by a streamlined bamboo cross brace in the center. An additional brace off bamboo is securely fastened across the frame toward the front. The propeller brace consists of a streamline cut piece off bamboo 12-2, in length by in width at center. Apering toy backslash toward themes. The propeller brace is inserted in slots cuten thurrends off frame members, then bound and glued. The propellers are bent from birch veneer, the bending being done over an alcohol flame as illustrated in diagram 15. But first of all, the blades are cut a shape, sandpapered and finished before they are bent. As shown in drawing, a slot is filed in the hubofatch blade tonable the propeller shaft toppus through when both have been glued together. The blades are thin glued and bound together, first by placing a piece off wire in the slots toinger there being centered and also to prevent their being filled with glue. After thishas been done, 80 model aeroplanes each propeller is given 3 coats off the samed dopus isu said on thewings. The propeller bearing Sarah turned out off I-32 bronze tubing, the length of fatch bearing being 1/2. Steel washers are slipped over the propeller shaft, between the bearing and propeller toinger smooth running. The propeller shafts are made from steel head pins which are heated at both ends, one end off which is bent in toe-loop torsive thurrubber strands. The other end being bent around the hub off the propeller to prevent the shaft from slipping during thune winding off thurrubbers. 2 strips off brass, each J4x2, are bent around the 1/2-inch bearing and soldered. The brass strips are thin glued and bound onto the ends of the propeller brace as shown in diagram. Ruddy Funk Speed Model Scober Compressed Air-Driven Monoplane. McMahon Compressed Air-Driven Tractor, right. Page 114. Ilson H. Wheeler World Record Model, Twin Pusher Biplane 143 sec. Duration rising from the ground. Since the beginning of model flying, very little attention has been paid to the model biplane. Practically our records are held B model aeroplanes off the monoplane type. With this fact in view, their chord established by Mr. Wheeler with his twin pusher biplane is extraordinary, insofar as it surpasses many off the monoplane records. This model is a very slow flyer, and has excellent glidingable ID. At headtime when this model flew and broke the world's record, the greater portion of the flight consisted of a bodyful gliddy off 86 seconds duration. After the power gave out, making it possible for the model Tormain in the for a duration of 143 seconds. 81. 82 model aeroplanes. The frame consists of 2 I-beams, each 48 in length, running parallel and spaced by cross pieces, each piece inch long. The bearing blocks used made it possible for the propellers to clear beyond 1/2 inch. 212, expanding pitch racing propellers arrowed and these are mounted on ball bearing shafts. The main upper plane has a span of 34 with its short of 5, the lower plane being 26 by 5. The elevator consists of 2 planes, each measuring 14 by 5. Cork wheels arrowed, each being 1 inch in diameter. 4 motive power 1/8-inch flat rubber issues, this being coated with glycerine to prevent sticking. Also an H. Wheeler twin pusher biplane CV. UBS tractor model. Page 118. Simple compressed air motor. During the past few years, model flyers in America have shown a tendency toward the adoption of compressed air motors for routine connection with model aeroplanes. Hitherto, England has been the home of the compressed air motor, where a great deal of experimenting has been carried on, to a considerable degree of success. Flights off over 40 seconds have been made with models in which compressed air power plants were used. But however, desire on the part of a large majority of model flyers in America to build scientific models, that is, models more closely resembling large machines, has made it necessary to find a more suitable means of propulsion, rubber strands being unsatisfactory for such purposes. Many different types of compressed air motors have made their appearance during the past few years, among which the 2-cylinder opposed 84 model aeroplanes type is very favorably looked upon, because it is perhaps one of the easiest to construct. To make a simple 2-cylinder opposed compressed air power plant, as illustrated in figure IF diagram 16, it is not necessary that the builder be in possession of a machine shop. A file, drill, small gas blow torch, and a small vise comprise the principal tools for the making of the motor. The first things needed in the making of these motor are cylinders. For the making of the cylinders, 2 fishing rod ferrules, known as female ferrules, are required. And for the heads off the cylinders, 2 male ferrules are required. Such ferrules can be secured at most any sporting goods store. The female ferrules should be filed down toe length of 2, cut down on side distance off the diameter, then cuten from as shown in figure 7. When this has been done, the 2 male ferrules should be cut off at ease tenths of percent from the top as shown in figure 7a, toes of ashids for the cylinders. A-hole, simple compressed air motor 85 flax, FC and STF/% or. Diagram 16. 86 model aeroplanes Y%. In diameter should bedrolled in the center O-fetch head so stonable the connecting of the intake pipes. Bithusi off soft wire soldered heads should be soldered in Tothin soft cylinder sash shown in figure raid. The pistons should no be made. For this purpose, 2 additional male ferrules are required. These should be made to operate freely within the cylinders by twisting them in air which has been saturated with oil and jupan which has been shaken fine powdered emery. They have been made to operate freely, they should be cut down 1/2 inch from the closed end as shown in figure 5a. Fourth, the connecting rods, 2 pieces of brass tubing, each end in diameter by each 4 long, are required, and as illustrated in figure 6, should be flattened out at either end and through each end hole 3-32 in diameter should bedrolled. Fourth, the connecting off the piston rods to the pistons, studs are required, and these should be cut from a piece off brass rod 4 in diameter by 2 in length. As 2 studs are necessary. 1. Simple compressed air motor 87 4H piston. This piece should be cut in half, after which each piece should be filed in a toning deep in order receive thinned off the connecting rod. Before soldering the studs to the heads off the pistons, however, the connecting rods should be joined to the studs by thusing off a steel pin which is passed through the stud in connecting rod, after which thins off the penerflitten, toe kept it in position as shown in figure 5a. Or the outside valve mechanism and also serve in the capacity of bearing forth a crankshaft, a piece off brass tubing 4 in diameter by I1/* longest required. Into this should be drilled 3 holes, equal % in diameter and equal * apart as shown in figure 4. Next, fourth, a valve shaft and also propeller accommodation. Secure a piece of 3-16 drill rod 2 long. On the left-hand side off the valve shaft, as shown in figure 3. Cut 1-32, deep BJ4 in length is made I from thinned. Another cut off the sawmed dimensions is made on the right sidianly. This cut is made at a distance of % from the stud end. 88 model aeroplanes as shown in figure if. Thick crank throw consists of a flat piece off steel, 3-32 thick, in length by J4 in width. It a chundoff crank throw a hole 3-16 in diameter should be drilled the holes to be on 1/2 inch apart. Into a piece off steel drill rod 3-32 in diameter by *4 longest soldered, to which the connecting rods are mounted, as shown in figure if. To the other hole the student off, crank throw is soldered. Before making the tank it is most desirable to assemble the parts off the motor, and this may be done by first fitting the pistons in toth cylinders as shown in figure IB, after which the cylinders should be lapped one over the other and soldered as shown in figure A. When this has been done, a wholly own 1/4 of an inch in diameter should bedrolled halfway between thins off the cylinders, and into this hole should be soldered one end off the valve casing, shown in figure 4. Fourth, inlet pipes, as shown in figure IC, secure 2 pieces of Y% brass tubing and after heating guntle soft. Scober pusher type compressed air-driven monoplane scober, compressed air-driven biplane. Page 126. Simple compressed air motor 89, bend both toe shapes similar to that shown in figure AC. When this has been done, solder one end to thinned off the cylinder and the other in the second hole off the valve shaft casing. The valve shaft should no be inserted in the valve shaft casing, and the connecting rods sprung onto thick rank throw as shown in figure ID. I'll loosen up the parts off the motor which have just been assembled. It should be filled with oil and bititely holding thick rank shaft in thedjos off a drill. The motor can worked for 8 minutes. The tank is made from ash sheet off brass or copper foil 15 long BIU thick. This is made in the form off a cylinder, thedges off which are soldered together as shown in figure 2 *. Sometimes this seam is riveted every 1/2 inch to increase its strength. In most cases, solder that is required to hold thedges together. Fourth, the caps or ends, the tops of 2 small oil cans are roast, each can measuring 2/2 in diameter. To complete the caps, 2 discs off metal should be. 90 model airplanes soldered over thins off the cans where formerly thespouts were inserted. The bottoms of the can shaving been removed. The bottom edge soft thickens should be soldered to the ends off the tank as shown in figure 2. Into one end off the completed tank, a hole large enough to receive an ordinary bicyclear valve should bedroll. Figure 2. Another hole is drilled into the other end of the tank, into which is soldered a small gascock to the valve. Figure 2. It should be filed down where necessary to eliminate unnecessary weight. To connect the tank with the motor, a piece of /% brass tubing 3 longest required, thins off which are soldered into the holes in the valve shaft casing nearest the cylinders, as shown in figure A. As shown in figure A, a hole Y% in diameter is drilled in one city off this piece, button it through, in thin nearest the tank. Another piece off brass tubing J in diameter is required to connect the tank with the motor. One end off which is soldered to the cock in the tank, the other in the hole in. Simple compressed air motor 91 pipe which leads from the motor to the tank, illustrated in figure E, thus completing the motor. In conclusion, it is suggested that the builder exercise careful judgment in both the making and assembling off the different parts off the motor in order to avoid unnecessary trouble and secure satisfactory results. After having constructed a motor as has just been described, the constructor may find it his desire to construct a different type of motor for experimental purposes. The constructor therefore may find the descriptions of satisfactory compressed air motors In the following paragraphs of suggestive evaluation. Compressed air models, the McMahon compressed air-driven monoplane, one of the latest developments in the field of model flyingis, McMahon compressed air-driven monoplane. This model was built to build either attractor or pusher. Butte in view of its towability more easily as a pusher, most of the experiments have been carried out on this machine as a pusher. The machine in itself is simple and inexpensive to construct, chief portion of the expense being involved in the making of the motor. By using the machine as a pusher, a great deal of protection is afforded both the propeller and motor, and this protection helps to avoid damaging the propeller or motor, which would mean an additional expenditure for repairs, thus minimizing the cost of fleeing the model. 92. Compressed air models 93. The frame has been made to accommodate both the tank and motor, and this is done by using two 30 strips of spruce, each J4 wide by E deep, laid side by side at a distance of 3 inches apart up to within 10 off the front, as shown in the accompanying photograph. Knob braces are set on the frame as the tank, when securely fastened between the frame, acts in that capacity. Thewings are made in 2 sections, each section measuring 24 in span by 8. In cord, consisting of 2 main spars, 3-16 in diameter, 1 for the ring edge and 1 for the rail hinge edge. Toth edges at a distance of 3 inches apart, area-attached bamboo ribs, 18 in all, each measuring 8 in length /% in width by 1-16 thick. Thewings are around at head-hips, and have a camber of approximately 1/2 inch, but they are not set at an angle of incidence. Light China silk is used for covering, and after being glued over the top of, the wing frame is given 2 coats of torpedo shrink and fill the pores off the fabric. Agud. 94 model aeroplanes dope for the purpose can be made from celluloid dissolved in banana oil. The wing sections are attached to the frame and braced by light wire. The forward wing or elevator is made in the same manner as the main wing, but should measure only 18x3. Instead of being made in 2 sections as the main wing, the forward wing is made in 1 piece. The chassis is made by forming 2 V-struts from strong steel wire sufficiently large enough so that when they are attached to the frame of the model, the forward part will be 9 above the ground. 1 V-strut is securely fastened to either side of the frame at a distance of 8 from the front. A 7-axle is fastened to then soft these struts. On the clear mounted 2 light wheels, each about 2 in diameter. The chassis is braced by light piano wire. The rear skid is made in the same manner as the forward skid, only that things off. Struts are brought together and a heel inch in diameter is mounted at head bottom and spy means off a short axle. The struts are not. John McMahon and his compressed air-driven monoplane Frank Scober preparing his model for flight. Gauge to determine pressure of air may be seen in photograph. Page 134. Compressed air models 95 more than 7 long, views allowing a slight angle to the machine when it is resting upon the ground. The machine complete doesn't weigh over 7 ounces. The power plant used in connection with this model is off that with cylinder opposed motor type, with tanks such as has just been described in the foregoing chapter. The tank is mounted in the frame by drilling a 1-16 hole through either end of the tank, through which a drill rod of this diameter can be inserted. About %THS off the drill rod should extend out 1 inch city off the tank, to permit the fastening off the tank to the frame side members. This method of mounting tank serves 2 purposes satisfactory degree. First, it permits secure fastening. Second, as third surpass through the side and cap off the tank the hilt materially and preventing the caps from being blown off in the event of excessive pressure. McMahon compressed air-driven biplane. The McMahon model we find Rosati's factory type of compressed air-driven model. On several occasions, this model has made flights of over 200 feet with a duration of between 10 and 15 seconds, and the indications are that with use of a more powerful motor, the model can be made to fly a greater distance, with a corresponding increase of duration. The motor used in connection with the model is of that with cylinder opposed type, such as described in the foregoing paragraphs. The tank, however, is somewhat different in design from that just described, it having been made of 28-gauge sheet bronze, riveted every 1/2 inch. The 2 long bolts that hold the steel cups on either end of the tank also serve as attachments for the spars that hold the tank to thing in bed, as shown in diagram 18. The tank has been satisfactorily charged topers 96, compressed air models 97 sure off 200 ibs per square inch, butanely appray sure of 150 ibs, is necessary to operate the motor. The tank measures 10 in length by 3 in diameter and weighs 7 ounces. Thewings off this machine are single surfaced and covered with fiber paper. The top wing measures 42 in span by 6 in cord. The lower wing is 24 by 6. Ewings have a total surface of 396 square inches and are built upon 3-16 dowel sticks, flattened to streamline shape. On litwo sets of upright separate thewings, the sitting to the streamline appearance off the machine. Both tail and rudder are double surfaced and are built entirely off bamboo for lightness, the tail being made in the form of a half circle measuring 12 by 8. Steel wire is used on the construction of the landing chassis. The chassis being sewed sign at a store under it capable of withstanding the most violent shock that it may possibly receive in landing. The propeller used in connection with the model is 14 in diameter and has an approximate pitch of 18. Model airplanes pi **F/LFR diagram 17. Compressed air motors. The Wise compressed air motor, although of peculiar construction, the Wise rotary compressed air motor offers a very interesting design from a viewpoint of ingenuity. This motor embodies a number of novel features not hitherto employed in the construction of compressed air motors, and in view of the fact that the majority of compressed air motors are made on the principle of the opposed type, this motor suggests many possibilities for the rotary type motor. The motor consists of cylinders and weighs 4 ounces, including the propeller and mounting frame. On a pressure of 15 ibs, the motor will revolve at a speed of 1000 rpm. The connecting rods are fastened to the crankshaft by means of segments and are held by tourings, making it possible to move any 199 IU model aeroplane's piston without disturbing the others. This is done by simply removing anutannering. The crankcase is made from seamless brass tubing, into which the cylinders are brazed. The valve cage and cylinder heads are also turned separately and brazed, oneringly issued in connection with the pistons. The cylinders have a bore of 11-32, with a piston stroke of 7-16. View off the fact that pull rods show a greater tendency to overcome centrifugal force, they are used instead of push rods to operate the valves. The crankshaft is butone post, which is uncovered in turn by each inlet pipe as the motor revolves. The overhang method is used to mount this motor to the model. With the exception of the valve springs, the entire motor, including the mounting frame and tank, is made of brass. The Scober Funk compressed air motor 2, of the most enthusiastic advocates of the compressed air motor for Hussein model aeroplanes are Messrs. Frank Scober and Rudolph Compressed Funk, both members of Aero Science Club. For a number of months, both these gentlemen have experimented with compressed air motors of various designs, until they finally produced what is perhaps one of the most satisfactory rotary motors now in use, from a standpoint of simplicity and results. As can be seen from the companion illustration, this little engine is remarkably simple in appearance. The motor, complete with equipment, weighs at the most but 14 ounces. Cylinders, 3 in all, are stamped from brass shells for strength and lightness. The pistons are made from bonafiber. The cylinder shave a bore off $, with a piston stroke off I. The crankcase is built up from a small piece of brass tubing and is drilled out for lightness. The crankshaft is shallow and is supported at her by a special bearing which acts as a rotary valve, admitting the intake through the crankshaft and permitting the exhaust to escape through a specially constructed bearing. A model aeroplane's tank is constructed of 30-gauge sheet bronze, wire wound, and fitted at heens with spun brass caps. The actual weight off the engine alone is 2/2 ounces, the tank and fittings weighing NL/2 ounces, making the total weight off the complete power plant 14 ounces. The Scober 4-cylinder opposed motor, another interesting type of compressed air motor that has been developed in America, is the Scober 4-cylinder opposed motor. While this motor is different in appearance from most compressed air motors, it has been made to work satisfactorily and is consistent with the same high-class construction that is displayed in most Alof Mr. Scober's motors. The accompanying diagram 17 illustrates the method of operation of the 4-cylinder motor. The crankcase is constructed from 4 pieces of 24-gauge spring brass, substantially connected in the form of rectangle, the top and bottom being left open. The front end, compressed air motors 103 diagram 18. 104 model aeroplanes rear walls have flanges which engage the inside off the sidewalls and are secured thereto by 4 small screws, one each side, thereby making it a NASA matter to take the crankcase apart. The 4 cylinders are made from drawn brass shells and have a bore off I and stroke off I too. The pistons are made of solid red fiber. The 2-throw crankshaft is built of steel with brass webs. The bearings are of steel. The valves, being overhead, are driven by a jar mounted at heend off the crankshaft. The gear driving the valve shaft by means of a jar on that shaft, with which the crankshaft gear meshes. The valve arrangement, as shown in diagram 18, consists of a recesses cut into the valve shaft, 2 of which allow theotopus from inlet pipes, which lead into the valve chamber at Hess center off same, tot with the cylinder satnons, while the other recesses allow the exhaust topus from opening synthesides off the valve chamber. The cylinders are secured to the side plates. The interesting horizontal opposed Jobson gasoline motor for model aeroplanes. The top photograph shows the half-speed shaft and the arrangement of the valve mechanism. This engine is air-cooled, develops IP at 1,500 RPM and weighs 7% IBS, including gasoline tank and propeller. The bottom view shows Thingen with propeller in situ. Courtesy flight. Page 146. Compressed air motors 105 off the crankcase that when those side plates are removed, the cylinders are removed with them. The pipes aerodetachable centers, small pipes running tooth heads off cylinders extending into the larger pipes which run to the valve chamber. This arrangement is shown in theme view off the engine. A17, propeller resused in connection with this engine. Gasoline motors, the Jobson I.P. Gasoline motor 4 model aeroplanes. During the past few years, several attempts have been made, both in this country and abroad, to produce a reliable gasoline motor for model aeroplane work, but mostly without any degree of success. The reason for this inability, no doubt, is due to the scarcity of small working parts sufficiently light and at the same time reliable. Thingen described herewith, designed by Mr. W.G. Jobson, a member of the Manchester Aero Club, England, ISO off the few that they've been made to work satisfactorily. As the accompanying diagrams 19 and 20 and photograph show, Thingen is off the for cycle, horizontal opposed type, having two cast iron cylinders off each % stroke. Each cylinder is cast in one piece and as 106. Wise 5-cylinder rotary compressed air motor, Scoba Funk 5-cylinder rotary motor. Page 150. Gasoline motors 107 engine air-cooled. They are cast with radiating fins. 1 P is developed at 1,500 rpm. The total weight off the engine, gasoline tank and propeller is *J2 IBS. In preparing thedsin off this motor, the designs of similar full-sized aero motors were followed as Faraspo's Sybil. The pistons are similar to those used on large aero motors and are fitted with 2 rings. The crankshaft is turned out of 2-inch special bar steel and is carried in 2 foes 4 bronze bearings. There isn't a special feature about the connecting rods, these being off the standard type but very strong and light. Tonable, the 2 cylinders stop exactly opposite one another. The connecting rods are offset in the pistons and are connected to the lat turbogudgeon pins. The aluminum crankcase is extremely simple, being cylindrical and vertically divided. The inlet valves are automatic. The exhaust valves being mechanically operated. The camshaft is driven from the main shaft by 1 gearing. Tosis the exhaust, and also the cooling small holes. EO8 model aeroplanes diagram 19 sectional elevation, off the I.P. Jobson gasoline motor for models. The disposition of the gasoline tank and wick carburetor is particularly noteworthy. It will be seen that metal journals are provided for the crankshaft, which is turned out of 2-inch bar steel. Courtesy flight. Gasoline motors 109 aerodril round the cylinder in such a position that when the piston is at thinner endo fit stroke. These holes are uncovered, thus permitting the exhaust to escape, and so leave the mount passing through the exhaust valves. The commutator is also driven off the camshaft, as shown in the drawing. No distributor is fitted to the commutator. A small ones are somewhat troublesome and very light coils are obtainable at various unable price. The gasoline tank is made of copper in streamline form and is usually fitted to the back of the crankcase, thus reducing the head resistance, but if desired it can be fitted in any other position. Thiction of the carburetor can be as a license from the drawings. It is off the surface type and much simpler, lighter and quite as efficient as the spray type. Especially light and simple spark plugs are used that give very little trouble. The propeller used in connection with this motor is somewhat out of the ordinary, having been specially designed for this engine and patented. The propeller. No model aeroplanes is made entirely of aluminum and has a variable pitch, this being easily obtainable, as blades are a graduated sothotannide sired pitch, within certain limits, may be given a tones. Their salts off a series of Dissona 30-inch propeller are shown on the accompanying chart, and from it the thrust ascertained speeds with a certain pitch can be obtained. Taking the engine running at 1,540 rpm, with aperture 15. The thrust comes out at 9.2 IBS, or more than 8 off the motor and accessories. Gasoline motors X at 1,340 TPM, Roman 29 Z15 pitch off buoy and cinches. Diagram 20 diagram off results obtained from tests off I.P. Jobson model gasoline motor, showing the thrust in pounds at varying speeds with propellers off different pitch. Courtesy flight. Immediate aero gasoline motor. Although numerous model constructors in America are experimenting with model gasoline motors, the midget gasoline motor, the product of the Aero Engine Company, Boston, Massachusetts, is perhaps the most satisfactory to the present time. An engine of this type was said be Mr. P.C. McCutcheon of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in his 8-foot Voisin type biplane model, for which he claims a number of satisfactory flights. The motor is made from the best iron, steel, aluminum and bronze and the complete weight including a special carburetor. Spark plug and spark coil is 2 IBS. From the top of the cylinder head to the bottom of the crankcase the motor measures 7. It is possible to obtain from this motor various speeds from 400 to 112. The midget HP gasoline motor. Page 158. Midget Aero gasoline motor 113 2700 rpm, at which speed it develops J4 HP. The propeller used in connection with this motor measures 18 in diameter and has a 13 pitch. It might be of interest to know that the parties responsible for the development of this motor is Mr. H.W. Aitken, former model maker and who is now connected with one of the largest aero motor manufacturing companies in America. Steam power plants aside from the compressed air motor, there is the steam-driven motor, which has been used abroad to considerable degree of success. Owing to the difficulty in constructing and operating a steam-driven motor, very few model flyers in America have devoted any attention to the development of this motor, a means of propulsion for model aeroplanes. Irrespective of the limitations of the steam motor, a great deal of experimentation has been carried on in England, and without doubt it will soon be experimented with in America. Perhaps one of the most successful steam power plants to have been designed since the development of Langley's steam-driven model is Groves type of steam power plant, designed by Mr. H. Groves of England. On an occasion, several flights were made with a model 114 steam power plants 115 driven by a small steam engine of Groves type weighing 3 ibs. The model proved itself capable of rising from the ground under its own power, and when launched it flew a distance of 450 feet. This is not a long flight when compared with the flight made by Prof. Langley's steam-driven model on November 28, 1896, off 3/4 of a mile in a minute and 45 seconds. But the size of the models and also that Mr. Groves' model on the made duration of 30 seconds must be considered. The model was loaded 12 ounces to the square foot and had a soaring velocity of some 20 mph. The total weight of the power plant was 2 ibs, propeller thrust 10 to 12 ounces. The total weight of the model was 48 ounces. The type of steam plant used in connection with this model was of the flash boiler, pressure-fed type, with benzylene for fuel. Mr. Groves has done considerable experimenting with the steam-driven type power plant. Many of the designs used in the construction of steam plants for models are taken. I-6 model aeroplanes from his designs. A Groves steam power plant is employed in the of Mr. V. E. Johnson's model editor of flight. Model hydro-aeroplanes, the first power-driven or mechanically driven model hydro-aeroplane, Safaraskin learned to rise from the surface of water under its own power. This model has a total weight of 3 ibs, 4 ounces. Another advocate of the steam-driven type model is Mr. G. Harris, also of England. Several good flights were made by Mr. Harris with his pusher type monoplane equipped with a steam-driven motor. A result of his experiments had concluded that mushroom valves with a lift-off 1-64 parafanch were best, used in connection with the pump, and at least 12 feet of steel tubing should be used for boiler coils. The first power plant constructed by Mr. Harris contained a boiler coil 8 feet long. Butafter had replaced this coil with own 12 feet long. Respective of the fact that the extra length of tube weighed a couple of ounces, the thrust was increased by nearly a half-pound. An English steam power plant for model aeroplanes. Courtesy flight. Model hydro-aeroplane owned by V. E. Johnson. Model Editoroff Flight, England, equipped with an H. Groves steam power plant. This model is the first power-driven as far as can be learned to rise from the surface of the water under its own power. Courtesy flight. Page 164. Steam power plants 117. The principal parts used in Mr. Harris's steam power plant was an engine of H. Groves type twin-cylinder % bore with a piston stroke off I2. The boiler was made from 12 of 3-16x20G, steel tubing weighing 10.5 ounces. The blow lamp consisted of a steel tube 5-32x22G, wound round a carbide carrier for a nozzle. The tank was made of brass 5-1000 thick. The pump 7-32 bore stroke variable to J4, fitted with 1 return valves, mushroom type, and was geared down from Thingen 4.5 to I. The Langley steam-driven model, of which so much has been said, and which on an occasion flew a distance of on half mile in 90 seconds, had a total weight of 30 ibs. The motor and generating plant constituting 1/4 of this weight. The weight of the complete plant worked out to 7 ibs per p. Thingen developed from Edo 12H.P. A flash-type boiler was used with a steam pressure of from 150 to 200 ibs, the coil shaving being made of copper, a modified naphtha blowtorch such. I-8 model aeroplanes said plumbers, was used to eject a blast or flame about 2000 Fahrenheit through center off thighs coil. A pump was used for circulation purposes. With the best mechanical assistance that could be obtained at that date, it took Professor Langley 1 year to construct the model. About 10 months after Langley's results, some experiments were carried out by the French at Carquinez near Toulon. The model used for the experiments weighed in total 70 ibs. Thingen developing more than I.P. As in Langley case, twin propellers were used, but instead of being mounted side by side, they were mounted one in front and the other behind. The result of these experiments compared very poorly with Langley's. A flight off only 462 feet was made, with a duration of 5 seconds. The maximum velocity is stated to have been 40 mph. The span of this model weighs a little more than 6 meters, or about 19 feet, with a surface off more than 8 square meters, or about 80 square feet. An English hydro-aeroplane off-director design equipped with steam power plant. Courtesy flight. On the right, an English 10 Oz. Compressed air driven by plane on the left. The engine shown fitted with a simple speedometer for experimental purposes. Courtesy flight. Page 168. World's model flying records. Twin propeller pusher type models. Monoplane year 1916. Thomas Hall, America. Hand-launched. Distance 5,337 feet. Year 1915. Wallace A. Lauder, America. Hand-launched. Distance 3,537 feet. Year 1915. Wallace A. Lauder, America. Hand-launched. Duration 195 seconds. Year 1914. Fred Watkins, America. Rise off ground. Distance 1,761 feet. Year 1914. J.E. Louch, England. Rise off ground. Duration 169 seconds. Year 1915. E.C. Cook, America. Rise off water. Duration 100 seconds. Twin propeller tractor type. Monoplane year 1913. Harry Herzog, America. Rise off water. Duration 28 seconds. Twin propeller pusher type. Biplane year 1915. A.H. Wheeler, America. Rise off ground. Duration 143 seconds. 119. 120 model aeroplanes. Single propeller pusher type monoplane year 1914. J.E. Louch, England. Hand-launched. Duration 95 seconds. Year 1914. W.E. Evans, England. Rise from ground. Distance 870 feet. Year 1914. J.E. Louch, England. Rise from ground. Duration 68 seconds. Year 1914. L.H. Slatter, England. Rise from water. Duration 35 seconds. Single propeller tractor type monoplane year 1915. D. Lathrop, America. Hand-launched. Distance 1,039 feet. Year 1915. D. Lathrop, America. Hand-launched. Duration 240 seconds. Year 1914. C.D. Button, England. Rise from ground. Distance 570 feet. Year 1914. J.E. Louch, England. Rise from ground. Duration 94 seconds. Year 1915. L. Kittle, America. Rise from water. Duration 116 seconds. Single propeller tractor type. Biplane year 1915. Laird Hall, America. Rise from ground. Duration 76 seconds. Flying records 121. Flying boat type. Monoplane year 1915. Robert Latour, America. Rise from water. Duration 43 seconds. Flying boat type. Biplane year 1914. C.V. Obst, America. Rise from water. Duration 27 seconds. Mechanical driven model year 1914. D. Stanger, England. Rise from ground. Duration 51 seconds. All British records. Error quoted from flight. Dictionary of aeronautical terms. Aerodrome, attract, offline, selected for flying purposes. Aerodynamics, the science of aviation. Literally the study of the influence of air in motion. Aerofoil, a flat or flex plane which lends support to an aeroplane. Aeronaut, one engaged in navigating the air. Aeronautics, the science of navigating the air. Aeroplane, a heavier than air machine supported by one or more fixed wings or planes. Aerostatics, the science of aerostation, or of buoyancy caused by displacement, ballooning. Aerostation, the science of lighter than aerogas-borne machines. Aileron, the uter edge or typifoing, usually adjustable, used to balance or stabilize. Airship, commonly used to denote both heavier and lighter than air machines, correctly dirigible balloon. Angle of incidence, the angle of viewing with the line of travel. 122. Dictionary of terms 123 Aries in the case of wings. The extent of surface measured on both the upper and lower sides. An area of one square foot comprises the actual surface of 2 square feet. Aspect ratio, the proportion of the chord to the span of wing. Forks and plaything has a span of 30 inches and a chord of 6 inches. The span aspect ratio will 5 or chord. Automatic stability, stability secured by fins. Angle of newings and similar devices. Aviator, one engaged in aviation. Aviation, the science of heavier than air machines. Angle of blade, thingle off the blade of a propeller tothixis of the shaft. Be balancer, a plane or other part intended for lateral equilibrium. Bearing block used in connection with the mount and goff propellers on model aeroplanes. Made from wood and metal. Brace strip off bamboo or other material used to join together the frame's side members. Also used in joining other parts off a model. Biplane, aeroplane or model aeroplane with 2 wings superposed. Body the main framework supporting thewing or wings and the machinery. I-24 model aeroplanes banking the lateral tilting of an airplane when taking at-turn. See camber, the rise of the curved contour of an arc surface above the chord line. Center of gravity, the point at which the aeroplane balances. Center of pressure, the imaginary line beneath, the wing at which the pressure balances. Chassis, carriage, the part in which the main body of an aeroplane or model aeroplane is supported on land or water, or the distance between thintering and trail in jedges off owing. D-deck, the main surface of a biplane or multiplane. Directional control, the ability to determine the direction of the flight of an aeroplane. Dirigible, a balloon-driven bipower. Dope, acoating forewings. Downwing with thewing. Drift, the resistance off thewing to the forward movement. Dihedral, angle the inclination off thewing stoach, other usually bent from the center in the form off a flat V. Elevator, the plane or wing. Intended to control the verticalflight off the machine. Dictionary off terms 125 engineer, one who controls the power, driving the machinery. Entering edge or leading edge, front edge or off the surface up in which the impinges. Equilibrator, a plane or other contrivance which makes for stability. Fin, a fixed vertical plane. Flexed, auengisid tobe flexed when it curves upward, forming anarchoff a circle. Flying stick, name applied to ordinary 8-pan single stick models. Flying machine, literally a form off lighter than aircraft, August-born airship. Flying boat, ahalor large flow toosting connection with an aeroplane tonable its rising from end, alighting upon the surface off theater. Frame, a single ordable stick structure tow hitch, all parts off a model area attached. 3 or more sticks aerosome times employed in the construction off a frame. However, usual number istwo, joined toads the the form off litter. Frame hooks, the looped ends of a piece off wire attacked to the point off the frame, to accommodate the shooks attached to the rubber strands. Frame side members, 2 main sticks off an A-type frame. Fuselage, the body or framework off an aeroplane. 126 model aeroplanes, glider and aeroplane without motive power. GUI abrace, usually a wire or cord juiced fortuning up the aeroplane. Gross weight thewate off the aircraft, compressing fuel, lubricating oil synthepilot. Gyroscope, a rotating mechanism for maintaining equilibrium. GAP, the vertical distance between the superposed wings. H, hangar, ashed forehousing an aeroplane. Harbor, a shelter for aircraft. Heavier than AIR, a machine weighing more than the or it displaces. Helicopter, a flying machine in which propellers are utilized to give lifting effect by their own direct action on there. In aviation, the term implies that the screw exerts a direct lift. Helmsman, one in charge off the steering device. Hydro-aeroplane, an aeroplane with pontoons tone able its rising from the surface off theater. Known as hydroin model circles. Keel, a vertical plane, or planes arranged longitudinally, either above or below the body forthipore pose off giving stability. Dictionary off terms 127L, lateral stability, which prevents side motion. Loading, the gross weight divided by the supporting area measured in square feet. Longitudinal stability, which prevents fore and aft motion or pitching. Longerons, main members off the fuselage, sometimes called longitudinals. Mast, a perpendicular stick holding the stays or struts which keep thewings rigid. Model aeroplane, a scale reproduction of them in carrying machine. Mechanical power, a model driven by means other than rubber strands, such as compressed air, steam, gasoline, spring, electricity, and so forth, is termed a mechanical driven model. The power used is termed mechanical power. Motive power, in connection with model aeroplanes, a number of rubber strands evenly strung from the propeller shaft to the frame hooks, which while unwinding furnish the necessary power to propel the model. Main beam, in connection with model aeroplanes, a long stick which is secured to the undercity off. Thewing frame at highest point in the curve, off the rib setting material to the rigidity. Off the wing. 128 model aeroplanes, monoplane, an aeroplane, or heavier than air machine, supported by a single main wing which may be formed off wings extending from a central body. Motor, a contrivance for generating driving power. Multiplane, an aeroplane with more than 4 wings superposed. Motor base, main stick used for frame off single stick model. Nacelle, the carafat dirigible balloon, literally a cradle. Also applied to shirt bod used in connect tion with aeroplanes for the accommodation off pilotan motor. Net weight, complete weight off the machine without pilot, fuel or oil. Ornithopter, a flapping wing machine which has arched wings like those off a bird. Orthogonal, a flight maintained by flapping wings. Outriggers, members which extend forward or rearward from the main planes for the purpose of supporting the elevator or tail planes off an aeroplane. P-plane, a surface or wing. Either plane or flexed, employed to support or control an aeroplane. Pilot 1, directing an aeroplane flight. Dictionary off terms 129 pitch, theoretical distance covered by a propeller in making owner evolution. Propeller, the screw used for driving an aeroplane. Propeller bearings, pieces off bronze tubing, gore strips off metal formed to the shape off the letter L, used to mount propellers. Also made from blocks off wood. Propeller blank, a block off wood cut a theta sign off a propeller. Propeller spar, S, the heavy stick or sticks upon which the bearing or bearings off a single Ortwin propeller model are mounted. Propeller shaft, a piece off wire which is run through the hube off the propeller and to begin mounting the propeller. Pylon, correctly, a structure housing a falling weight used for starting an aeroplane, commonly adderning point in aeroplane flights. Pusher, an aeroplane with the propeller or propellers situated in back off the main supporting surfaces. Quadruplane, an aeroplane with furwings superposed. Rudder, a plane or group of planes used to steer an aeroplane. Runner, strip beneath an aeroplane used for a skid. 130 model aeroplanes running gear or landing gear, that portion of the chassis consisting of the axle, wheels and shock absorber. RIB curved brace fastened tathintering and trail in jedges offoing. Scale model miniature aeroplane exactly reproducing the proportions of an original. Spar amast strut or brace. Side slip the tendency off an aeroplane toss slide or slip sideways when too steep banking is attempted. Stability the power to maintain even keel in flight. Starting platform runway tonable and aeroplane tolave the ground. Surface friction resistance offered biplanes or wings. Slip the difference between the distance actually traveled by a propeller and that measured by pitch. Soaring flight a gliding movement without apparent effort. Sustaining surface extent off the wings or planes which lend support on aeroplane. Span spread the dimension off a surface across the airstream. Streamline exposing as little surface as possible to offer resistance tower. Dictionary off terms 131 skids in connection with model aeroplanes. Steel wires or strips off bamboo allow to extend below the frame to protect the model inlanding and to permit its rising off the ground oris. Soar motor hooks a piece off wire bit in a double hook torsimal the letter S. One end to beat etch to the frame hook, the other serving as accommodation for rubber strands. Tail the plane or planes, both horizontal and vertical, carried behind the main plane. Tandem an arrangement off to planes one behind the other. Thrust the power exerted by the propeller off an aeroplane. Tension the power exerted by twisted strands of rubber in and winding. Tractor an airplane with the propeller situated before the main supporting surfaces. Triplane an airplane with 3 wings superposed. Trailing edge their rear off a surface. Torque that twisting force off a propeller tending to overturn or swerve an airplane sideways. U upwind against Thewin. W wake thetchurned or disturbed Aaron Thetrack off a moving aeroplane. 132 model airplanes wash the movement off the irradiating from the sides off an airplane flight. Wings, planes, or supporting surfaces, commonly a pair of wings extending out from a central body. Winder an apparatus used for winding 2 sets off rubber strands at a time in opposite directions or on at a time. Very often made from an egg beater or hand drill. Warping springing off a wing out off its normal shape, thereby creating 8 per hour difference in the extremities off the wing, which enables the tow wheel the machine back again into balance. Abbreviations HP horsepower, RPM revolutions per minute, HL hand launched, ROG rise off ground model, ROW rise off water model, MPH miles per hour. Theme. Page 183, page 184, page 185, 14-day use return toads from which borrowed loan department. This book is due on the last date stamp below, or on the date to which renewed. Renewals only, tell, no. 642-3405 renewals may be made 4 days prior to date due. Renewed books are subject to immediate recall. 29,197,361, General Library, University, California. Page 187, page 188.